He's the former president and publisher of the Sun Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome to Coast View, the show that celebrates the men and women who are making coastal Mississippi such a great place to live, work, and play. As I've mentioned in past shows, we've had over 250 conversations. Kyle's been here every step of the way with me. I've got a great content producer in Cammie Crow. It takes a team to pull this off. I really appreciate the work that they're doing, but we really talk to some special people. We get to know well the people behind the public face, those who are making just terrific contributions to coastal Mississippi. And boy, I've got a treat for you today. The Big O, Butch Oslett, is going to be joining me. Let me tell you, before we move over to Butch, just a couple of things. The Butch Oslett Autoplex has been in business for over 61 years. Butch actually bought the dealership from his father, Bubba Oslett, in 1984, who bought the dealership in downtown Gulfport in 1959. Butch has been honored in his community service work countless times over the many years. He was selected to South Mississippi's top 10 business leaders by the Sun Herald and was featured as Time Magazine Dealer of the Year in Mississippi in 2001, which is actually a fitting honor because his father, Bubba Oslett, was named a Time Magazine Quality Dealer in 1976. The family legacy, the community service, the legend of the Big O. I want to welcome Butch Oslett to Coast View this morning. Good morning, Butch.
Ricky. Good morning, Rick.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic. I woke up this morning. Yeah, I'm blessed, baby. I'm blessed already.
We both did. Thank God. We both did. I've really been looking forward to this conversation, Butch, because we've known each other for an awful long time, and I look forward to kind of sharing a little bit more about who Butch Oslett is to our listeners. So you ready to rock and roll?
Let's rock and roll and get it on. Come on.
Hey, why don't we do this to begin with? I'm just curious. How's business these days? Are you guys finding your stride managing business in the pandemic?
I tell you what, it's fantastic. The only month that was tough was April, but of course April was blocked out on everybody. You couldn't get out of your house, and it was a terrible time for all of us in America, especially here in South Mississippi, where tourism is so important to us. But quite frankly, since then, our business has exploded. Our Mazda business was up 38% in July. We were number 3 in the South. Our Ford business has always been great. We're the number 1 Ford dealer in South Mississippi. And any way you want to look at it, we're very blessed. It doesn't mean we can't do better, and we will do better, but most importantly, we are blessed.
So what we're going to do, I want to spend the first part of the show talking about your family legacy. In the second half of the show, I want to get into this incredible community service that is really part of who you are. And then in the last part, I want to talk about the Regardless commercials and the work that you've done in your dealership, the expansion that you've done along the way. But there's an awful lot to talk about. So let me start with this, just to kind of summarize the family history a bit. And then we'll get into sort of what this legacy means to you. But your great-grandfather immigrated from Lourdes, France, to America in the late 1898, and he actually worked in the field of engineering. Your father described him as an extremely educated man, well-educated man. At the age of 13, your grandfather formed his own small business building wagons in New Orleans, and by the age of 21, he became an excellent auto mechanic and eventually opened his own large independent auto operation. Your father, Bubba Oslett, worked with your grandfather during the summer, so it was only fitting, actually, that he would end up in the automotive industry. He went to LSU, got a degree in mechanical engineering. This degree in mechanical engineering actually created some opportunities for him early in his life to get into the dealership business. He eventually opened his first dealership in Jennings, and will eventually own a number of dealerships along the Gulf South, including the dealership in Gulfport. Talk to me about your family legacy in the automotive business.
Well, it goes all the way back to what you said. My great-grandfather was the finest wagon maker in the South, and he was making wagons before we had cars. Then my grandfather at 13, his daddy died. He had to take over the wagon business. He ran that, took care of his family, And then when automobiles started coming around, he opened up an automobile repair shop in New Orleans. It was unique because it was open, Ricky, believe it or not, open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It was a 3-story building, and he was the largest paint and repair business in the South. He was very successful, and it kind of paved the way for my dad. My dad would work with him in the summertime when he wasn't in school. And so Dad, after the war, went back and got an engineering degree at LSU. And by the way, he's in the Engineering Hall of Fame at LSU. We're very proud of that. And in 1948, he went to work for International Harvester Company as a technician. Everybody thinks he sold cars right off the bat. No, indeed. He fixed cars and trucks before he sold any. Then in 1952, he decided, I want to have a family and I want to live in a small community where I can raise my family. So he moved to Jennings, Louisiana in 52, opened up his first dealership. In 1959, he came to Gulfport, opened up another dealership. But more importantly than that, his involvement with the automobile industry was enormous. He became the #1 dealer in America on the dealer council. He was chairman for all dealers, all sizes. He was used in a powerful way nationally. He was on the National Dealer Council. I mean, he did so many great things. And quite frankly, one of the best things he ever did was have 10 kids. He was a good Catholic family and had 10 kids, and it really inspired us as we saw what he did in the community. It inspired me and my brothers and sisters to be very much involved.
He once wrote about, I think it was maybe an engineering teacher that told him, he said, okay, you get an engineering degree and you're going to go sell cars. And he said, no, you don't understand. You know, he's using his engineering degree. It takes an engineering degree to be great at what he was doing at the time. Exactly. And he really learned to leverage that. He was always proud of his connection to LSU, wasn't he?
Very much so. He's done so many great things at LSU that we followed up with, my family, but we can never accomplish what he accomplished. He was selected the Outstanding Alumnus of the Year one year, worldwide alumnus, #1 alumnus in the world. I forget what year it was, but he was selected that. He, as I told you, was in the Engineering Hall of Fame. If you go to the engineering building at LSU, there's a display of his stuff. He was a great engineer before he ever became a car dealer. And he's used that to focus and move forward in his car business and other businesses.
He was on a couple of bank boards. He started an insurance and
he started one bank in Louisiana.
Yeah.
And he was on the Merchants Bank board with his good friend Guy Billups and a lot of other good friends. And he just did so many great things. But the biggest thing he would do, and maybe this is not really in your part of the segment that I'm supposed to talk about it, but it's on my mind.
Yeah.
The greatest thing he would do is every year he would sit down at Thanksgiving with all 10 kids, and just the 10 kids, not the spouses. And he talked about what he and Mama wanted us to do when they passed. And we've carried on his tradition of giving and taking care of other people that have been in the communities that we lived in. And so I'm very proud of my brothers and sisters for continuing on, not only in the car business, but most of my family's in education. You probably don't know that, but most of my family's in education. And the big thing is Dad and Mom left a tradition that has carried on to today.
Well, we're actually going to get into the community service in quite some detail here shortly. But you talk about your mom, your father, but your mother, man, she left an incredible legacy as it relates to community service, and we'll talk about that in just a second. Your brother Joel Osterlet is the president of the Bubba Osterlet Chevrolet Cadillac dealership in Jennings, Louisiana today.
That's correct. That's correct. My brother Ricky Osterlet is president of Bubba Osterlet Ford, Lincoln, Toyota, and Jennings, Louisiana. And then I have a brother Jimmy Osterlet that's involved in those dealerships also. So I've got 3 brothers that are involved in it.
That's incredible. So as you look back on the family legacy as it relates to the automotive industry, it's going to, like I said, you've been established here on the coast for over 61 years. Will it be 100 years at some point?
Well, it's up to God, whatever God wants to do with me. So I have family, but none of my family is involved locally.
Yeah.
And but whatever God's got in store for me, we'll see what happens. I know.
Well, look, what we're going to do when we come back, this is Butch Ocelot. We're having the Big O. We're having a conversation with. When we come back after the break, we're going to really get into the community service, because if anything defines Butch Ocelot and his family, it has been the incredible contribution to the community, and we'll talk about where that came from. He mentioned it to some extent just a second ago, but we're going to really dive deep into it. So we'll see you after this break.
Listen live or on demand and watch episodes of Coast View on your laptop, desktop, or on your phone or tablet by going to supertalkmsgulfcoast.com.
Get out of the house and over to Big Play today. 2 massive arcades, bowling, go-karts, 2 mini golf courses, a 2-story state-of-the-art laser tag arena, bumper cars, and right now get a $50 game card for only $25. Visit our station's Facebook and print on demand so you can play at Big Play Entertainment Center now. These deals won't last long, so make sure you get your half-off deal. Big Play Entertainment Center, Highway 90 Biloxi. Bowl, play, eat. Go to our station's Facebook to get your half-off deal now.
What decisions are being made by state lawmakers, and how will they affect you, your family, and community? If you listen, you'll know. SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk app, and at supertalk.fl.
Hi, I'm Billy Kinder, host of Big Billy Kinder Outdoors here, the show Saturdays at 1, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi. Turkeys, whitetail, Grenada Lake crappie, or Gulfport redfish. We enjoy it all, especially when you're in camp with us on SuperTalk Mississippi.
You could be spreading the coronavirus without realizing you have it, so do your part and stay home. It's important to limit in-person interaction with anyone outside of your immediate household, but phone and video chat are safe ways to connect. It's also important to limit social gatherings. If you need essential items like food and medicine, try using a delivery service. If you must leave your house for essential items, or if you want to take a walk for exercise, make sure to wear a cloth face covering. Stay at least 6 feet away from other people. Try not to touch frequently touched surfaces like light signals, street signs, or benches. And wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds as often as possible. This advice applies to people of any age, including teens and younger adults. It takes all of us to slow the spread of the coronavirus, so stay home unless absolutely necessary. Visit coronavirus.gov for the latest information.
Thousands of Bulldog fans have subscribed to the Thunder and Lightning podcast. Have you? On each episode, Brian Haydad and Joel Coleman give you an inside look at your Mississippi State Bulldogs. The Thunder and Lightning podcast is free and available on demand at supertalk.fm and on your smartphone. Just search for Thunder and Lightning on iTunes, Google Play, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Thunder and Lightning from SuperTalk Mississippi, covering the Bulldogs like no one else.
Hey, want to come work for the #1 radio group on the coast? TeleSouth Media has a great opportunity for an outside sales consultant. Get paid while having fun and work in the exciting, fast-paced world of radio. We have award-winning stations like 97.9 CPR Rocks, 105.9 The Monkey, G96.7, SuperTalk 103.1, and 103.5 The Possum. Take the first step towards a new and rewarding career. Submit your resume to Jesse at telesouth.com. That's JESSE at telesouth.com. TeleSouth Media is an equal employment opportunity employer.
Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. We have the Big O himself, Butch Ocelot, with us today. We're talking about his family legacy and the community work that he's done, and we'll cover a lot of other things. You know, I had we share a common friend, Rick Carter. Rick Carter is someone who, if you were to ask Rick, who is his best friend in life, he would say Butch Ocelot. I know you would probably say the same thing of him, but he says of you that you do so much work behind the scenes that people never learn about. Countless stories that some will never know about. Rick means a lot to you, doesn't he, Butch?
Rick is closer to me than my own blood brothers. I mean, Rick and I have been unemployed together. We've been broke together, and we've stuck together through good times and bad times. But most importantly, he's been a great inspiration to me. I can never thank Rick enough for what he's done in motivating me and being my friend in every way. I'm godfather to one of his sons, which is an honor. I feel like I'm an uncle to all of his kids, but most importantly, what he's meant to me is I can't put a price on it. There is a song that he and I listen to quite often called "It Ain't No Stopping Us Now," and we have been together through the good times and the bad. Thank you, Rick Carter, and I hope you listen to this because I love you very much.
Yeah, Butch, I can tell you, and you know this, but he feels exactly the same way as you do about you. So look, I want to tell you a story real quick. When I was president of the publisher of the Sun Herald, you won't even remember this. I stopped by to see you. We had an appointment. I don't even remember the subject matter. I think it had something to do with the community. And I stopped by to visit with you. And you were in a meeting prior to the scheduled meeting that you and I had, and that meeting was running over. And while I was waiting, one of your guys came up to me and says, Butch is having these meetings all the time. And I really wasn't sure at the time what he meant, but he said he just does this all the time. And so eventually your meeting ended, and you came out and invited me in, and you introduced me to an African-American preacher that you were sitting down having a conversation with, and something to do with the community, and I don't know what all, but I just remember looking at the relationship you had with him and thinking, man, this is a very special man, talking about you and the preacher for that matter. Do you remember that time?
There have been so many of those times, Ricky. I don't know. I just believe very strongly we have an obligation to help other people. And that belief came from my mom and dad.
Well, you said of your dad that he was the most giving person that you have ever met, that he taught the 10 children the value of community service. And your mother, as I mentioned a minute ago, she was super committed to the community, to the church, to education, to LSU. I mean, they really kind of set the stage for the kind of community service that you wanted to do. And you said of yourself that you have been blessed, and that if you could do things for other people, you were doing the right thing. You really believe that in your heart of hearts, don't you?
I believe it with all my heart. I mean, the people that are blessed in life are supposed to bless other people. And I believe that with all my heart. But the real reason that I get involved with other people and try to help them is because what would happen if I was in trouble? Would someone else try to help me? I would hope so. But more importantly, God expects us to do that. And whether I can say it or not, it doesn't matter. I'm a firm believer that the answer is Jesus. And he's been good to me. He's taken care of me. So I have an obligation to help other people. Mom and dad have been involved in so many great things. And talking about my mother for a minute, none of us in the family knew that every Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, Mama would disappear at noontime. And she was going to nursing homes and playing the piano. And she would always be buying supplies for the people in the nursing homes. We never knew that about my mother until right before she died. And so my mother carried on doing great things in the community just like Dad. Dad would do so many great things. I remember that at his wake, people were coming up, and one gentleman was an African-American choir director in Jennings, Louisiana. And he says, "You just don't know about your daddy." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, during segregation times, your daddy heard that we were trying to bring the choir to Washington, D.C., and it was an African-American choir. And he said, you know what your daddy did? I said, no. He says, your daddy said he would pay to send the whole choir. I said, what do you mean? He says, he said he would pay for it. He says when it was time to go, he wanted to know how long we were going to stay. We said just for a day or two. He says, no, those kids need to be up there for a week. He paid for everything. Wow. No one knew about it. I didn't know about it to the wake of my father. I think one of the most important things was when things were bad with segregation, we played basketball with one of the guys that his son worked with us, an African-American boy. The African-American boy was killed in a car wreck. You know who the ball players were? Me and my brothers. We were the only whites in the church, but we were there. What's good for everybody is what's good for us. We want to be fair and good to everybody, whether it's African-American, Chinese, or American whites. It doesn't matter what it is. We want to be good to everybody, and we try to. So our giving is to everyone.
What a great legacy your parents left. What a great legacy you're leaving with your own actions. So much of what you do, no one will ever know about. You do sort of behind the scenes. Hey, you mentioned your mother playing the piano. Your father and your mother really shared a love of music, didn't they?
Oh, they did. Dad was a accordion player and very involved. I think he was in the LSU band. Mom was a piano player. Mom's brother was how she got introduced to Dad. Her brother was in engineering at LSU. Mama went to Baylor University in Texas, and she met Dad through her brother. And so I know when Dad was introduced, as there was a crowd of 500 people at a black tuxedo dinner at LSU when Dad was made the Outstanding Alumnus of the Year worldwide. And in his speech to all the people in the crowd, he didn't talk about himself. He talked about Mama. He wanted to know how much he loved his my mother. My mother was so important to him, he talked only about her. He talked about how he wanted a big family. He talked about how she took care of the family and he did the work to support the family. And most importantly, some of those things we need to get back to. We need to get back more to family. During these tough times when we're all cooped up together, we need to be encouraging our families. Not only talking at dinner tables, but talking during conversation during the day. And Mom and Dad were good about all of that.
So when I evaluate your community service, Butch, I see it play out on so many different levels. First of all, it's on the church. Scholarships that you provided, contributions to the priest retirement home, youth programs, education, so much that you've done in that realm. And then there's the stuff that happens, we mentioned, that happens sort of behind the scenes, these singular things that you do to help people. And again, we probably never know all those things. There are the things that involve the community as it relates to bringing attention to something. For example, you're very committed and have been in the past to things like the Red Cross, the American Heart Association. You believe strongly that people should help organizations like that are really focused on solving things like cardiovascular disease because of your own experience there. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I'm going to talk about something else. It might surprise you, Ricky.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's important to me. I believe very strongly in second and third chances. A lot of people don't know it, but I've been very involved with prison ministry. I've been to South Mississippi Prison quite often. I've had people that I've hired from the prison to work for me at the dealership. We need to give people chances. We need to give people a second and third chance. It's not about giving up on people. So I've built a house. I will say this. I built a house that I'm very proud of at Home of Grace, a house for addictions. It houses 8 men in Lucedale, well, not Lucedale, Van Cleve.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a firm believer in helping people with addictions. I also have given a lot of my money to schools. I believe in helping schools, Southern Mississippi, Gulf Coast. I've got 5 professorships there. St. Vincent de Paul School, I've got stuff going there. St. James School. The future of the Mississippi Gulf Coast is not Butch Osterlet. The future of the Mississippi Gulf Coast is those kids that are at St. James, St. Vincent de Paul, Gulf Coast, USM Gulf Coast. That's the future. It's not me. And quite frankly, Rick, as much as I love you, it ain't you either. It's these kids.
Yes.
So we got to do all we can to encourage the kids. And that's why I think it's also important we have more conversation with the kids.
Let's do this, Butch. When we come back, we'll finish the conversation about community work, and we'll come back and talk a little bit about the Regardless commercial and stuff like that. So when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Butch Osterlet.
Be sure to go by this station's website and check out the half-off deals. Audubon Zoo tickets for just $15. That's half price. $30 zoo tickets for just $15. Again, go to this station's website or Facebook. Look for the half-off deals logo to purchase yours now.
Heart attacks and strokes don't stay home. So don't avoid the ER out of anxiety. Don't die of doubt. If you have an emergency, call 911. When seconds count, the hospital is the safest place to be.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. Talking to Paul Thorne, Mississippi true treasure, really incredible recording artist, singer-songwriter, has been doing it a long time, doing it the right way.
It's almost like a Forrest Gump thing because, I was a boxer, / I worked in a furniture factory, / I had a gig 2 nights a week playing my acoustic guitar in a pizza restaurant, / I was in the National Guard, and, all this stuff was going on at the same time. / I had a writing contract with Rick Hall and Fame.
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk Mississippi app, and now available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
There's a place to share gossip about the office party fun, and a place to share the story you tell everyone. There's a place to share a laugh about when things went wrong, and a place to share the video of you dancing to your song. There's a place to share spare change, lunch, and your time. But we could all be better at sharing how we're feeling inside. 76% of employees have struggled with at least one issue that affected their mental health. When you share, you're not alone.
Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen.
Okay.
Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi, and now on Amazon Alexa devices.
This is House Call for Health. There may be no greater medical mystery and no greater tragedy than sudden infant death syndrome. It used to be known as crib death. For no apparent reason, a presumably healthy sleeping baby dies. Medical experts don't have clear-cut answers to what causes sudden infant death, or SIDS, but now they have 2 risk factors: smoking and drinking during pregnancy beyond the first 3 months. A new study finds that babies whose mothers drank alcohol and smoked tobacco after the first trimester are at far greater risk of SIDS, 12 times greater. Previous studies showed a risk of smoking and drinking individually. This study says doing both drastically increases the danger. The research is sponsored by the National Institutes of Health, which is calling for greater publicity about the danger and improved screening at the very beginning of a pregnancy. For more health news, go to foxnewshealth.com. House Call for Health. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News.
You could be spreading the coronavirus without realizing you have it, so do your part and stay home. It's important to limit in-person interaction with anyone outside of your immediate household, but phone and video chat are safe ways to connect. It's also important to limit social gatherings. If you need essential items like food and medicine, try using a delivery service. If you must leave your house for essential items, or if you want to take a walk for exercise, make sure to wear a cloth face covering. Stay at least 6 feet away from other people. Try not to touch frequently touched surfaces like light signals, street signs, or benches. And wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds as often as possible. This advice applies to people of any age, including teens and younger adults. It takes all of us to slow the spread of the coronavirus, so stay home unless absolutely necessary. Visit coronavirus.gov for the latest information.
Whether you're a Rebel, a Bulldog, a Golden Eagle, or just a sports fan, SuperTalk Mississippi has got a podcast for you. For you. Sports Talk Mississippi, the Rebel Report, Thunder and Lightning, the SuperTalk Eagle Hour, and the Borky Show are all now available for you. And it's all free. Get them all on demand at supertalk.fm and on your smartphone. Just search for SuperTalk on iTunes, Google Play, or
the stay-at-home orders, the new state flag, the mask mandates, the protests and riots in many of our nation's cities, the battle for the White House. So far, 2020 has been a year like no other, and only one radio station has covered it all from a Mississippi point of view. SuperTalk Mississippi. And hang on, because who knows what 2020 will bring us next. Whatever it is, SuperTalk will be right here to deliver it to you live. Listen in all 82 counties statewide. SuperTalk Mississippi.
he's the former president and publisher of the Sun Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. We have the Big O himself.
We're in the house right now, baby.
Do what now?
We're in the house right now.
In the house. Big time, big time. Hey, Butch, when we went to break, though, you mentioned about building the house at the Homes of Grace, and I just wanted to mention I had a great Coast View session with Todd Trenchard, who leads the Bako McCarty Foundation, and he's been on the show a couple of times. He's a friend. He's someone that really inspires me because, as he tells the story, his mother literally left him on the doorstep of Homes of Grace to die. She fully expected him not to make it. Not only did he make it, but he became a significant leader in his community, still is today. But Todd's not alone. There are so many incredible stories like that come out of Homes of Grace. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate you being willing to contribute your resources to helping that fine organization help people with addiction.
I think the thing to remember, too, also, Ricky, is suppose Todd didn't get a second or third chance. Where would he be? Where would we be?
Yeah.
Things that he's done on the Mississippi Gulf Coast would have never happened. But someone gave him a second and third chance. And that's what I'm trying to do in my life. And I hope that I influence other people to do the same thing.
Yeah, I think that's such a positive and important message. And he talks about that in this Coast View session we had together, that he had to rebuild trust. It took a long time, but there were people along the way who bet the ranch on him. And his goal was to prove that their bet was a good bet. And he did definitely prove that for sure.
He definitely did.
So let's shift gears for a second. A lot of people know you through your Regardless commercials. You and Larry Clark, who was your partner, he's retired today. But y'all did these commercials. Excuse me?
A great partner, and I miss him.
Well, you created. I remember when I first found out Larry was just your partner. I thought he was some kind of paid actor that was part of these commercials because he really was good at it. And you guys made such a great team. Tell me the story behind that.
Well, we actually were looking at competition, and competition at that time was Pat Peck Nissan. Pat Peck Nissan was outselling us. We knew we had to do something dramatic that would catch people's eyes and have them listen to what we were saying. So we talked to a group out of Birmingham, Alabama that said, look, we've got this campaign, the Regardless campaign. Why don't we talk with you about the Regardless campaign, and you and Larry do commercials together? I said, look, we've never done them together. What are you talking about? They said, both of you are extroverted. You act like you can act. So let's put you together on commercials. So we started doing these funny commercials, and people kept waiting for them every month. We did them for, God, I don't even know how many years. And obviously Larry decided to retire, so he's retired, and I'm not doing those commercials anymore. Everywhere I go, people say, Butch, when are you going to have another commercial? I said, well, I can't. My man's not with me anymore. I miss him. He was a great partner. We had a lot of great times together. But the Regardless campaign put us on the map because it made people realize before I buy a car or truck, I better talk to Butch Osterlet before I buy something because they're going to beat your best deal regardless. So it worked in a big way, and it's still working. If you notice our TV commercials, we still talk about Regardless. I actually franchised it nationwide. We'll beat your best deal regardless. I have a patent on it nationwide. And it's been great to us. We don't want to get away from it. And I'll tell you this right now, we'll beat your best deal regardless.
Hey, what's the chance that you can pull Larry out of retirement?
I don't know. He's enjoying Florida a lot right now. I miss him though. He and I just could act, and it was all natural. It wasn't planned. We just acted with each other in a certain way that people loved. Some of the best commercials we had were the Beatnik commercials. They were some of the best we had, and it really put us on the map. And when I say put us on the map, we had dealers all over the country wanting to buy it after that.
Wow.
Anyway, it was really great.
Well, it was they were definitely special. And as you know, I know Larry from working in the community in lots of different ways. One that really comes to mind is working with him on the strategic planning effort for the Ora O'Keeffe Museum. But, Larry was always dedicated to the community, just as you were. And I know that, when y'all were together, that was really an important part of what you were going to do as leaders of that dealership. So you had the opportunity to buy the Mazda dealership. Did that happen in 2005?
2005. We bought it right after Katrina. And,
so was that a gutsy move or not?
Well, it was a gutsy move because anything coming back from Katrina, Larry had basically lost everything he had. I had a estate on Pass Christian on the beach. I lost it all. The dealerships had a couple of $1 million worth of damage. It was a gutsy move because we didn't have any money. But we took a chance, and it worked. Mazda's been a great asset to us, and we feel like it's been great to the community.
Well, you speak about Katrina, but if you go back in time, your dealership has had to, this goes back to even your father, but your dealership has had to overcome some of the worst natural disasters in American history, and you've endured. What's behind that?
80% of that is attitude. You always have to have a positive attitude. I believe very strongly, whether it's in sports or whether it's in business, attitude is going to make or break you. Things are not always going to be good, but when they're bad, you better be thinking good, and you better be having a game plan. 10% of it is the game plan. Have a game plan of how you're going to make it happen. And then the final 10% is you better work your gazoo off. And if you work hard, you'll make it happen. But 80% of it starts with a positive attitude. So whether, I've had a lot of people say, Big O, why are you giving away all this money? I'll tell you why. Because God said do it, and God gave it to me. And I'll tell you one last thing. If you got the right kind of attitude, you'll make it more back in many, many ways. So as we go forward, Ricky, I can tell you that whatever time I've got left in this world, I'm going to be giving all of it away.
Yeah. Well, look, Butch, what's so interesting, and I say this all the time, but this opportunity to visit with people like you on Coast View is a chance to inspire other people. I don't care what their age is, to really want more in their lives, to really want to contribute more in their lives, to try to become the best version of themselves they possibly can be. And I hear it constantly that You have to be courageous. You have to be willing to take that step, this next step, that next whatever decision you're going to make related to your career, that next person that you might meet could change the trajectory of your career. The other thing is burning the midnight oil. I mean, just work. You got to work harder than the other guy, and get up early and work late, and don't skip steps. Do your homework and work hard. And the other is passion. You got to have passion for what you're doing. You got to have passion for your life, and in your case, passion for God. It all fits together to create sort of the complete person, doesn't it?
It does. And let me tell you one last story about determination. My dad, I went to drink coffee with him. 1983, November of 83, I was running Treadwell Ford in Mobile, Alabama. I resigned and I was going to buy my own dealership. So in that November, December, January, February, I kept looking and trying to buy stores all around the country. I had no money. I didn't have anything, but I had the desire and the will, and I had the belief, and I had the attitude. So I'd drink coffee with my mom and dad a couple of times a week. I'd go down and visit with them. And one day I'm sitting with my dad, who owned the Ford dealership in Gulfport, and it was March of 1984. And he said, "Butch, you want to buy the Ford store?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Do you have all the money?" I lied, and I don't lie about anything, but I lied that day. I told him I had all the money. He says, "Good." He says, "I'm going to give you 1 week to give me $600,000. You give me $600,000 in 1 week, you got the Ford store. You don't give me $600,000, you're out." Well, you know what? He did me a great favor. He made me realize that if I could do it, I could become a better person. And you know what? I got two partners that backed me, and Mr. Donald Suter, who's gone now, who was at Hancock Bank. Mr. Donald Suter used to run the bank. He loaned us the $600,000 to buy Dad out. We did it in less than a week.
Wow, what a great story! But it's just about, determination can really change the trajectory of your life. We're having a conversation with the Big O himself, Butch Osterlund. We're talking about life and the community, his family's legacy, his dealerships. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about Freddie, his younger brother who recently passed away, and the legacy that Freddie left and what Freddie meant to Butch. When we come back, we'll tell you that story.
SuperTalk. Nobody keeps Mississippi informed like we do. With 12 stations covering all 82 counties. If it happens in your state, we're on top of it. The news, the weather, the sports, and the talk that's important to you. The issues that matter to you, your family, and your bank account. It's all right here. And when you're away from home, depend on the SuperTalk app and supertalk.fm to stay in the know. We're proud to serve our fellow Mississippians. SuperTalk, Mississippi.
We know that we're asking Americans to do a lot right now. So we're asking everyone to be selfless for others so that we can protect those who are most susceptible to this virus.
A question I often get asked is, why should young people care about the spread of coronavirus? Well, we know that people with underlying medical conditions over the age of 60 are at highest risk, but they've got to get it from somebody.
Social distancing is really physical separation of people.
It's what we refer to when we ask people to stay at least 6 feet apart.
Not going to bars, not going to restaurants, not going to theaters where there are a lot of people. It all just means physical separation so that you have a space between you and others who might actually be infected or infect you.
We all have a role to play in preventing person-to-person spread of this disease, which can be deadly for vulnerable groups. For more information on how you can social distance, please go to coronavirus.gov.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. We are with the fabulous Norbert Putnam as he played on so many hit records, you can't count them, and produced for some of the biggest acts ever. Norbert, Elvis.
And I want to tell you about Presley. He had two different voices. He would sit and talk to me in a very calm, low voice. And we were at Stack's one night, and we were having lunch. We always had lunch at midnight because he was nocturnal. We sat there and we'd have our sandwiches, and at 1 o'clock, he looked up. He said, "Hey, Put, come on, it's time for me to go be Elvis." And he stood up, in a much deeper voice, he put on his macho voice. "Hey, fellas, it's 1 o'clock. Let's get cracking, okay?"
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, Amazon Alexa, and now on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
It's me, you, anyone that wants to be. There is no typical firefighter.
Everyone knows the only thing better than pizza is free pizza, and right now, buy a $10 gift certificate to CiCi's Pizza for only $5. It's like buying a pizza and getting a pizza for free. Go to our station's website or Facebook. Look for the Half Off Deals logo to purchase this amazing deal right now.
We give HPV vaccine to children at 11 or 12 years of age. I have 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls, and I've given the vaccine to all of them.
Get out of the house and over to Big Play today. 2 massive arcades, bowling, go-karts, 2 mini golf courses, a 2-story state-of-the-art laser tag arena, bumper cars, and right now get a $50 game card for only $25. Visit our station's Facebook and print on demand so you can play at Big Play Entertainment Center now. These deals won't last long, so make sure you get your half-off deal. Big Play Entertainment Center, Highway 90 Biloxi. Bowl, play, eat. Go to our station's Facebook to get your half-off deal now.
Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. We have the Big O himself, Butch Oslett. We've talked about the family legacy, his community service, the legend of the Big O. So many stories, so much to learn from Butch about inspiration, how to achieve purpose in your life. That's what this conversation's been about. Your brother Freddie recently passed away with COVID-19. He was a very special member of your family. Tell me more about Freddie.
Freddie was number 10 child that Mom and Dad had. Mom and Dad had 9 perfectly children, no problems. My mother was 6 months pregnant with Freddie, and the doctor said, "You need to abort him. He's going to be a vegetable." And Mom and Dad said, "No, we don't abort kids." And so when he was born, they went to Mom and Dad again, and they said, "You need to put him in an institution." And Mom and Dad said, "No, God blessed us with him, and we're going to take care of him." And so my mother and dad were examples of some great things to us. Freddie, we found out Freddie could not hear. He could not speak. He was supposed to be brain dead, basically, but he wasn't. And Freddie became the biggest love of our lives. And it was to a great degree because of my mother and my dad. You see, when Freddie was 5 years old, my mother and dad found a school in New Orleans that they could bring him to. And so Mom would go on a Sunday with Freddie and be gone till Friday evening. My dad would take care of the rest of the kids with a maid, and he would do that, and they did that for like 4 or 5 years. They didn't have a relationship. They gave up their life for Freddie. Then Freddie, my dad was always a big supporter of Edwin Edwards, the governor of Louisiana. And so when Edwards had his first campaign function, it was at my dad's house in Louisiana. And he said, Bubba, if I can ever do anything for you, let me know. Dad never asked for anything because he wasn't the type who would ask. So Edwards phoned Dad one day and said, "You've never asked in all these years for anything. What can I do for you?" And he said, "You can get me a luncheon date with the superintendent of the school of the deaf in Louisiana, and I would like for you to be there." So Dad went to lunch with the superintendent of the deaf school and Edwin Edwards. And at that time, we found out that deaf people could put up parts in a parts department real good without any problem. So here's a guy that just didn't have a brain, but he was the love of our life. The dad and mom sent him to the deaf school in Baton Rouge. He learned how to put parts up in a parts store. And so after Freddie got out of that school, Mom and Dad basically devoted their life to Freddie living with them. And Freddie would work at the dealership here at Gulfport or in Jennings. He'd put up parts and put them in the computer. And as time went on, my mother and Dad said always to us, never forget about Freddie. Freddie is so loving. Freddie was always smiling and hugging people. Freddie knew more people than we knew. And so something tremendous happened when Freddie got sick. When Freddie got sick, and I don't even know if you know this, Ricky, when Freddie got sick, it was a terrible blow to all of us because one of the brothers and sisters stayed with Freddie for years at nighttime. And I would go over every couple of months and spend a weekend with him. When he passed, it was like we lost everything. And it killed us. But we decided we'd go ahead and line the funeral up. He's buried in a tomb with my mother and Dad. And we're going to bring him by the car dealership in Jennings and the Chevrolet dealership in Jennings. The hearse would go by, and all the employees could wave bye to him. Little did they know, Freddie was a big LSU fan. He loved LSU. And so when they hit the main street of Jennings, thousands of people on Main Street. We didn't ask them to be there. They were there because of Freddie. And they were playing the LSU fight song as loud as they could play it. And they were waving with pom-poms to Freddie as he left. I never had people on Main Street waving to me. But my brother Freddie was the love of so many people. He was what love was all about. And he was that love for not only our family, but for so many people. Every time we put something up in the newspaper locally here in Gulfport or Biloxi about Freddie, people come to me, they said, "Oh, he was such a great guy. He always made my day. He was smiling. He was happy." That's what Freddie was all about. Freddie was about love. And we need more love in this country right now, Ricky. We need more love on this Mississippi Gulf Coast.
What a gift. What a gift Freddie was. I knew there were so many important stories about him. The story about the people in Jennings lining the streets, not surprised by that because over the years he was sort of head of customer service and honorary CEO of the dealership, and he just touched so many people. What a wonderful story to end on, Butch. I can't tell, unfortunately, we're out of time. I wish we could go for another hour because there's so much to learn from you. But you are an inspiration to a lot of people, and I really appreciate you sort of telling your story and sharing, sort of the genius of how to be a complete person. And I appreciate you telling your story, buddy.
Thank you, Ricky. I appreciate you having me.
It's been an honor. This has been Butch Ocelot, the Big O, telling us his journey through life and his family legacy and his commitment to community and his commitment to God, his commitment to family. Anyway, it's been a terrific visit. Thank you so much, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Subscribe for free to the Coast View podcast on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.